Welcome to another edition of In the Box Seat podcast, proudly brought to you by Gallop TV. Today, Rahil Radhakrishna and I are going to travel across the world, quite a way across the world in actual fact, and we're going onto the Zoom platform, and we're going to find out and learn a little bit more about a man who's got a handful of South African horses and whom he's doing well with. His name is Graham Motion. Graham, all the way from Fairhill in Maryland, how are you?
Very good. Good morning, guys.
Yes, and Rahil, how are you? What a treat it is to be in Graham's presence, albeit via Zoom.
Yeah, absolutely, Warren. Excited to hear about Graham and the horses that he's got in his care from South Africa. Of course, we know that a few of our top quality horses have been exported overseas, and Graham's going to tell us more about them and how they've settled in and how they're doing. And of course, we saw One Stripe run this past weekend, and how's he taken his run. So looking forward to the next sort of half an hour with Graham.
Absolutely, but let's start, Graham, with your business, your string. How many horses have you got? Where are they based? Do you have any assistants? Tell us a bit more about your operation.
Yeah, so I'm based here at Fairhill in Maryland. We have about 70 horses here, and I live about a mile away, so it's pretty convenient. Then, as is custom in America, I have a few groups of horses at different racetracks all the time. Right now, we're mostly at Delaware, where we have about 20 horses. And then shortly we'll be shipping to Keeneland in Kentucky, where they have a sort of a festival meet for 3 weeks, and we'll send about 15 horses there. So we always have our main base, but we also usually have one or two little groups on the road.
Sure, interesting. And Graham, which out of all of the racetracks in America, I mean, I know that they are a lot. I mean, which are your favorite ones?
Probably my favorite track is Keeneland. We go there in the spring and the fall. That's in Lexington, Kentucky. And that really is more what you'd call a sort of a carnival. It's 3 weeks of the best racing. There's usually a stakes race every day. It's just very good racing. The whole town follows racing, so there's a big crowd every day. And then probably the tracks in California are beautiful. Santa Anita is one of the most beautiful tracks in the world, I think. And Del Mar also, right on the beach, is a very pretty track.
Graham, tell us, how did South Africans' horses and the South Africans find you? How did they find you?
Yeah, I mean, I have in the past had a horse for Gaynor Rupert when she was involved with some of the Team Valor horses, who I actually won the Kentucky Derby for Team Valor years later. But I did have a group winner for Gaynor when she was involved with Team Valor. So I did have a bit of a connection there, but really, Mike DeCock has been the responsible for getting me these horses, and I owe him a great deal, because it's really sort of invigorated our stable, if you like. It's been so much fun to have these horses, and it all started about a year and a half ago when we had the first group come over, which was under the previous quarantine guidelines, which was very difficult.
What was it like when you got that call again that you'd be getting a few South African horses?
Yeah, it was tremendous. I mean, I really didn't know what to expect. But Isivunguvungu was on the first group that we had, and so was Beach Bomb, and they both ended up running in the Breeders' Cup, which was pretty remarkable, because they had to be on a very strict schedule in order to make the Breeders' Cup, because when they came to me, they'd literally been in quarantine for 2 months and hadn't done any training at all. So I think it really showed how talented they are, that they were able to handle the process and get to the Breeders' Cup, and both ran very creditable races in the Breeders' Cup.
Just touching on Isivunguvungu, he was a horse that he made his debut and he had won on his first start, and I mean that sort of set the bar quite high for what there could be. I mean, for the expectations for him going forward. Yes,
it did, and he was a little unlucky in the Breeders' Cup. I mean, I think if he didn't get impeded in the stretch, he probably finished his fourth. Maybe you could even make a case for him being third. We took him to Dubai. He hasn't come back as good this year, and I talked to the boys, and we decided to give him a bit of time off and probably point him for next spring. But what a cool horse. He's a very rapid horse and can compete with the best of them over here.
We obviously here in South Africa deal with Team Hollywood on a daily basis. Your dealings with them, and you know, they came over en masse to watch the horse run, etc. It's wonderful to see what they're doing, isn't it?
It's fantastic. I mean, it's like I said to you, I mean, not only has it invigorated South African racing, I would imagine, but it's also invigorated our stable. And it's just been a real pleasure dealing with them. You know, Owen was in Canada on Saturday. Obviously, I'd hoped for a better result, but I think everyone took it very well. And, you know, I think everybody understands what a challenge it is for these horses when they come over here. They all need a start at least to get going. And I think hopefully he'll improve for having had his run now.
Yeah, talking about needing a start to get going, let's touch on One Stripe a bit more detail. Your thoughts on the run, how's he pulled up, the plans going forward, etc.?
I actually had a quick look at him right before I came on with you guys this morning. He was walking in the barn, and he looks good this morning. You know, it's a pretty good trip to Canada. It's about a 10-hour trip. So he left there first thing yesterday morning, got back yesterday afternoon. But, you know, he looks good. His legs are clean this morning, so I'm pleased with that. The race itself was a little frustrating. Johnny felt like the horse inside of him sort of took him out going into the first turn, and he ended up much wider than he meant to be, which sort of compromised his position a little bit. He did put in a nice run in the stretch, not quite enough, but hopefully it's something we can work on. And Johnny was very complimentary about it.
Graham, you've obviously got a handful of the horses from South Africa. I mean, both fillies, and you've got Colt and a Gelding. How have they taken to conditions there over in the USA, and how long did it take them to settle in?
Yeah, I mean, the first group that came over, it took a while just because they hadn't done any training at all when they came to me. So we almost sort of raced them up to fitness eventually. I think Beach Bum had 2 races leading up to the Breeders' Cup. Isivunguvungu only had 1. But actually, when Beach Bum really improved was after she had a little break after the Breeders' Cup, and we were able to kind of let her catch herself and get more acclimated, if you like. And she came down to Florida last winter and did very well, was very competitive down there. With One Stripe, it was a little easier because he was actually in training in Europe before he came to me. So it wasn't like I was starting from scratch with him. He already had a certain level of fitness when he came to me. But obviously the tracks are very tight, like you would have seen on Saturday in Woodbine. That's a very tight track, as is Delmar, when we go out there. Animal
Kingdom was in your care, of course, and you had what a champ he is.
Phenomenal, yeah. I mean, you probably can't see it, but there's pictures all around my office here of him. He was a special horse. I never, you know, most trainers when they come to America or when they start training in America, their dream is to win the Kentucky Derby. I never really had that as a goal. It wasn't something I ever imagined doing, to be honest. So to have been able to win a Kentucky Derby and then win a Dubai World Cup, he was a phenomenal horse, the likes of which I'll be lucky if I see another one as good as him.
And then Gypsy's Warning was also in your care many, many years ago, Gypsy's Warning.
And I believe that's the horse that Gaynor had an involvement in when she was with Team Bella. So I think I'm right in saying she won a Grade 1 in California for me.
Correct.
Maybe the matriarch. So that was sort of my first introduction, if you like, to South African horses.
Yeah, she was good. I remember her fondly when she was here in South Africa, trained by a gentleman by the name of Duncan Howes, and very good horse, Gypsy's Warning. So that's quite right. And Distant Winter was a winner on the weekend. Is that correct?
Very impressive. Yes, she won a lower level. It's really an allowance race. It was a little bit of a complicated condition. It was for horses, restricted to horses that had raced at Delaware Park this season. But it was a $100,000 purse, and she won it very impressively. I think I'll probably take her up to Canada for a black type race next time.
Graham, how long have you been training for in the USA?
I guess I must have been training about 30 years plus.
But you don't look 30 years old, never mind anything else.
I feel 30. I feel my age this morning, but yeah, no, I've been very lucky. I mean, I grew up in England. My family were in the horse racing, and once I left school over here, most people go to college. I actually went to work for a trainer and kind of got my career going.
You married to Anita, is that correct?
That's right. We actually met. We met in France on the Gallops in France. Anita was working for Alain Royer-Dupré, and I worked for Jonathan Pease over there for a season. So that's where it all started.
Graham, when it comes to traveling and taking horses internationally, I mean, is it sort of Dubai the main goal, that a place that you like to visit often, or I mean, could it be elsewhere?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think Dubai make it very easy for you to come. They come and pick us up. So we have a direct flight from, usually we're in Miami at that time of year. Most of the expenses are taken care of. I've taken horses to Ascot a couple of times. I actually considered it this year with a filly with Jess's, a filly called Laura Lynn, who's actually undefeated over here. But we decided to pass on Ascot. She's now pointing for a Grade 1 at Keeneland. But I've always dreamt of winning a race in Europe, or a graded race in Europe. And we've had I think I've been second a couple of times. So Ascot's always sort of a dream to get back there with the right horse.
And when it comes to sort of immediate goals for the next few months or so, I mean, what would be the next sort of big target for you that you'd like to tick off your list?
I mean, look, at this time of year, everything's focused on the Breeders' Cup. So we're just a month and a half away now. I think, again, Jess's filly, Gimme Another, who came to me undefeated from South Africa, she won a nice Grade 2 at Del Mar 2 weeks ago. And I think there's a very good chance we could take her to the brink. She showed that she handled the racetrack. The distance is a little more, but Mike de Kock and I always talked about her as being a filly that should handle more distance. And I think he's right. And I think she'll handle the extra quarter of a mile. So that's kind of exciting that we could be taking her to the Breeders' Cup. And obviously, we'll see how One Stripe does in the next few weeks. But he's already won a win and you're in to get him to Del Mar. So hopefully we'll have those two. And, often there's a 2-year-old that might jump up at this time of year. I have a pretty nice Caravaggio 2-year-old that won at Kentucky Downs 2 weeks ago, and he'll run in a stake next time. So really everything is geared to trying to get these horses to the Breeders' Cup if they're good enough at this time of year.
And heading towards the Breeders' Cup, do you tend to put a lot of pressure on yourself, or what's the mood like in the camp?
I do. I think it's just something that you want to be part of, right? I've been fortunate since the first year I won a Breeders' Cup with Better Talk Now. I've been able to go back every year, and it's something that you just want to be part of, and you strive to have those horses, right? Those are the horses you want to have competing at the end of the year in the biggest showdown, right? So, and I also love the international aspect of it. That to me is what racing's all about, right? It's seeing who has the fastest horse. I mean, I think in this country, we tend to have so many options of where we can go and race that we tend to always take the conservative route. But actually, I think racing's about taking on challenges and really finding out who has the best horses. I think that's what it really should be about ultimately, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely, Graham. And just correct me if I'm wrong, you were in South Africa not so long ago. You went racing down in the Cape. Is that correct?
I did. I came over actually the day that One Stripe won the King's Plate. I was there and spent the day at the races, which was fantastic. Spent a weekend in Cape Town, and then we kind of traveled up through the country and went to Mary Slack's farm as well as Jess's farm. So we saw quite a bit and really hope to get back this year.
Yeah.
You sort of got a taste of what the South African racing culture is like, and you missed the best part of it though, because Durban is where it's at. That's where we've got the best racing culture.
That's what I keep hearing. Owen tells me I've got to come back in July. So that's a busy time for us, but it sounds like I need to be there.
No, you certainly need to be there. It's an atmosphere. It's just it's an absolute unbelievable experience, the Hollywood Bets Durban July. So it'll be a treat to hopefully one day meet you and to be able to entertain you here. Wilgebor's Drift Farm and of course Maritzfontein, two gorgeous properties, and Drakenstein Stud as well. I'm sure you would have gone to all of them.
Yeah, we did. We got to see all three farms, and really just a beautiful. I feel very fortunate to be part of this. I feel very fortunate that these guys have sent me these beautiful horses, and like I've just said to you, I love the international aspect of horse racing. So for me to be sort of part of these teams, it's really like a dream come true.
How big is horse racing in the United States? Because I mean, each sort of country has got a different scale to it. But in terms of your country, how big is it?
I think in this country it's much more localized. you won't read a lot on the national newspapers about horse racing, except during the Kentucky Derby. Everybody knows about the Kentucky Derby and the Triple Crown, the two races after the Derby. But otherwise, Lexington, Kentucky is kind of the mecca of horse racing. So everybody in that area in Kentucky follows horse racing, right? Saratoga up in upstate New York, big horse racing community. That sort of seems probably somewhat like your Durban meet, I would imagine. It's where we all go in August for the races, and it's everybody in town talks about horse racing, right? You walk down the street and 5 people will tell you good luck this afternoon. Whereas most towns in America you go to, people wouldn't have a clue who you were. So, and there's one other track that I've never been to in the Midwest called Oaklawn that I understand is also a really big horse racing community. So it very much depends on the region that you're in, but we don't have sort of the national exposure that I would imagine you guys have in South Africa.
And with regards to most of these tracks, I mean, are they more sort of city tracks or more country tracks? I mean, how would you describe that?
Yeah, mostly city tracks. I mean, quite a few of them sort of were built in the center of these cities. So sometimes the area around them is not so good anymore. We're in an interesting phase now where Pimlico, which is a perfect example of a track that was built in the middle of Baltimore, and the area surrounding it is not that nice now, but they're taking big strides to improve it, and they're actually building a brand new facility in Baltimore, brand new racetrack, which is pretty exciting for us because that would be my local racetrack. And also at Belmont in New York, same thing. They're completely redoing the racetrack. They're putting in 3 surfaces, so that includes a synthetic surface. So we have some exciting projects going on right now. But, like everywhere, we also have our woes. Not everything is perfect. Racing in California has struggled a little bit in the last few years. And California is a little bit on an island for us. It's a long way for us to go. So kind of the horses that are stabled in California stay in California. Whereas for us on the East Coast, we can travel anywhere in a short space of time.
Oh, interesting.
You must have, Graham, an incredible support base of staff, assistants, etc., family, because to juggle all these balls and travel to all these places can't be easy. It's never a one-man show, is it?
100%. I mean, I have a team here at Fairhill. I have Ian and Kat who run my barn here at Fairhill. And I'm often not here, so I very much depend on them. I have an assistant at Delaware Park who really runs things on her own, Annie, and she's, I'm really committed to these guys. I couldn't do it without them. And then Alice Clapham is my traveling sort of head lad, if you like, and she goes wherever I'm not. So she would have been up in Canada this week. Obviously, I came up for race day, but she was up there all week getting the horses ready. So you're right. I mean, with the traveling that we do, I'm totally dependent on my crew, and very fortunate to have such a good crew, most of which have been with me quite a long time, actually.
Any other interests besides horses and racing, hobbies or any other sporting interests?
Not really. I am a sports fan. I follow all sports. I love tennis. I follow actually American football quite closely. Our season just started here. So I'm very much a sports fan. I loved playing soccer when I was at school, but I seem to injure myself whenever I play now. So I'm just getting too old for it. But I love following sports. But as far as interest, I'm a terrible golfer. I tried to take it up, but I'm not very good. I'm lucky that I think what we do is a hobby, right? I consider training horses is really a privilege, and it's a hobby. I get paid for doing what I love to do. So,
Graham, in all your years of training, what's sort of one horse, if you can single out a horse that's very, very close to your heart?
Yeah, I mean, look, the horses, kind of my foundation horses that really put me on the map, I'm indebted to, right? Better Talk Now was my first Breeders' Cup winner. He won multiple grade ones. But I would say he was a horse that really caught international attention for me. And, it's no secret, we have a lot of international clients, right? We get sent a lot of European horses. And I think Better Talk Now is the reason for that. So he was a real warrior. He ran till he was 10, which is quite unusual over here. So he's a horse that I owe a great deal. Obviously, Animal Kingdom probably took my career to another level, right? And then there are some I've had some remarkable fillies. I had a filly called Filmmaker, who was my first Grade 1 winner. So I've been really lucky to have some fantastic horses. And I think the longer I do it, the more I enjoy being around the stable, perhaps more than the nervous energy that you expend being at the races. I enjoy being around the horses and doing what we do in the morning.
How do you celebrate the wins and the highs, and how do you handle the lows? Because sadly, we've got highs and lows in this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, if we're doing well, we're losing 84% of the time, right? So, look, I think you have to appreciate when you have a good horse. If you go for a year or 6 months without really having a good horse, you realize how lucky you were to have that horse. Yeah, we lead a very good life. My son also is involved in our operation, which I really enjoy having him around. So we celebrate as a family, but you definitely need to celebrate the wins.
Well, Graham, who could? If we watch racing, of course, but your next race meeting, your next runners in the next couple of days. When can we look out for another motion runner?
Yeah, we have a pretty quiet week. We had a really busy week. We actually had 3 nice listed stakes winners. Well, including Distant Winter, which was not really a listed race. It was more of an allowance race. But we had 3 nice winners on Saturday. I think we ran 8 horses on Saturday, which was a big week for us. So we have a pretty quiet week. I have 2 maiden runners, 2 2-year-olds running this week. One at Delaware on Thursday and one at Laurel on Friday. So Laurel is the track that I'll probably focus on the most the rest of the season. And then we'll go to Keeneland in October. And that's where we'll point the better horses to race at Keeneland. So that's the first weekend of October. And yeah, so that Keeneland will really be our focus, other than, trying to get some of these guys to the Breeders' Cup.
With regards to the South African horse, I mean, which one of those horses interests you the most? And which horse can sort of us South Africans look forward to seeing?
Well, I mean, look, I think Give Me Another coming off her big win is pretty exciting. I really think she's done enough to get to the Breeders' Cup off her race. So that's something to look forward to. She won't race again before the Breeders' Cup. One Stripe, there's a possibility I could race him again before the Breeders' Cup. I hadn't planned on it, but with regards that he had a little bit of a difficult trip and a difficult race, there's a chance he could run one more time before the Breeders' Cup. Beach Bum, who's been very successful, I'm going to back off her a little bit. She's had a couple of really nice wins this season in graded races, but she's had a long season. She was running at the beginning of the year in Florida, and I feel like it's caught up with her a little bit. There's a chance we'll decide to keep her in training next year. We haven't quite decided yet, but she's a filly that will probably be running later on in the year, possibly down in Florida.
Graham, what is the main difference, I say, to the horses that are there with you, on that side of the world compared to our South African horses? Is there much of a difference? What do you pick up? What do you think is the difference?
I don't notice a big difference, to be honest. Just the fact that they've been very competitive, that, every single one of the fillies that, any of them that have come over have been very hard trying, honest horses, sound horses. So yeah, I don't necessarily pick up on any particular traits. Just like I've said several times, I'm just so impressed with how competitive they've been. Your best horses have been very competitive with our best horses over here.
Yeah, sure. That's interesting.
Yeah, they just goes to show that our breeding ranks are still good.
Yeah, absolutely.
And our horses are able to compete on the biggest stage in the entire world, which is pretty impressive.
Yeah, absolutely. It's absolutely impressive because, as I said at the top of the podcast, the pedigrees are here, the stallions. I mean, and as you've just said, we can compete, with them in the rest of the world, which really is wonderful, and it bodes well for the future. But talking about boding well for the future, we're going to have to come to an end of our discussion because it's right in the middle of your training. What time is it there? Thank you for stopping, leaving it to your staff while you spent half an hour with us. What time is it there?
Not at all. So we just got our first set out. We go out our first set at 6:15. It's still quite dark at 6:15. So we get up to the track about 6:30. So when I hang out with you guys, I'll be getting ready to get my second set out. So It's all good.
Well, thank you for your time, Graham. And yeah, you know, when you do come to South Africa, I say when you do, because we're not going to accept the fact that you're not coming to see us again. It'll be an absolute pleasure and an honor to meet you in person. I know my wife certainly has, and we look forward to welcoming you here to South Africa.
No, I really look forward to meeting you guys, and thanks so much for having me on.
Thanks, Graham. Take it easy.
All the very best, and we'll be in touch soon, and we'll be watching your horses with great interest. Thank you for your time.
All the best. Thank you.
Cheerio. Thanks, Graham. Well, I mean, there we've got. I mean, what a humble gentleman.
Yeah, and it's interesting to hear about the different sort of racetracks in America, and obviously here in South Africa we've got the different jurisdictions and different sort of cities where we've got two tracks, and in P we've only got one. But in America there's a whole host of tracks, and on a single day, I mean, they can easily have up to 7 race meetings or 8 race meetings. So it's interesting. I mean, I think the same happens in Australia on a daily basis, and sometimes even in England, probably not to that extent, but where they've got so many racetracks. And yeah, it's interesting to hear his story and the number of horses that he's got and the assistance that he's got, given that he can't get to different parts and be in one place at the same time. So interesting story, and yeah, look forward to hopefully meeting him.
It would be wonderful to meet Mr. Graham Motion, absolutely. If he, well, as I said, when he comes, I'm sure he'll come if his schedule allows to come to the Hollywood Bets Derby in July. Owen's already planted the seed, so that's the first big step.
Exactly.
So,
and he's only speaking the truth, because here in Durban it's unmatched.
Yeah, unmatched. I couldn't agree with you more. Unmatched indeed. So that's it. That was Graham Motion, just a little taste of Graham Motion and his operation, and of course just to touch base on all the South African horses. And One Stripe, who was of course a runner just the other day, and we'd like to hear what their plans are going forward. But that's a wrap from Raheel, myself, and the team behind the scenes. All that's left for us to do is to wish you well, punt well, stay safe, be kind, and we will see you as always in the #1 box.